America.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and to every nook and cranny receiving the signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter emanating into those square boxes known as radios, aka the Howard Reynolds machines. Anyway, folks, how are everybody doing today? Welcome to the rest of the world, receiving our signals again through the magic of the internet, created by whom? We the people. But whom profits from it? Most of, or just a select few, because of the structural issues with our economic system. We'll go ahead and talk about all these issues throughout our lifetime. Anyhow, before we get started, let's move on to the geniuses in the studio. Buenos dias, mis hermanos. Good morning, my brothers.
Speaking of issues, we have those this morning. We had those yesterday. And we have
What
them today.
issues?
Well, signal issues. It's getting our signal to the transmitter reliably. And it's just not happening, so we're going to have to investigate that. I was out at the transmitter yesterday, switching out modems for AT&T's dead modem to a T-Mobile modem, and now my country station on HD3 is dropping out in and out. So I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Beats me, man. And plus, we have AT&T on this side, so they're probably going, "Oh, you're going to use T-Mobile? We're going to mess you up, man."
Well, you know,
So
but you know what, Howard? At least you get the magic happening. We're on air, and we're still we're still fighting and connecting those strings to make sure people can still hear what we have to offer.
Well, it is part of my job. You know, my job is to keep the tin cans and string connected, and a signal going to those magical boxes and over the internet too.
Yes.
And Jack, man, looks like you got almost a full page of wisdom here for us this morning.
I hope it's wise.
Well, we know it is, and I just wanted to laud praise upon Jack here, because I couldn't do this job without him.
Thank you very much, Howard. I appreciate it.
I only say that because it's true.
Well, it's true. I mean, I help. I'm a self-starter. I'll do it.
I know that's right. All right, what you got for us, man?
Okay. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I'm doing fine, my brother. Talk to me.
All right. Okay. What are the choices voters face in the presidential election? Number one choice is how the people are going to be governed. Kamala will maintain Democratic rule, meaning the people on the left and the right will still have a choice. She'll carry on with Biden's progressive policies that are proven winners, plus some of her own. Trump will sell off the people on the left and the right to corporate interests, which means corporate oligarchs will decide the fate of the people. Trump will end democracy as a strongman dictator day one. He will wall off the economy with tariffs on imports, like electric cars and stuff. Our choice is continued democracy or dictatorship. That's our choices in this presidential election.
Well, yeah. Yes. Well, let's see. There's bad, and then there's super bad. So which one do you like? I don't know if Kamala's going to do what she says she's going to do. Let's hope she does. I don't know if Trump says what he's going to do. And let's hope he doesn't get a chance to. But then again, we're really not supposed to be endorsing political candidates. So I don't think we endorsed one of them. We'll just throw that disclaimer in there. We're not endorsing any political candidates. We're just talking about them. So we're going to turn it back over to you, Egberto. We have hijacked your show once again.
No, I love the entry. I love the entry. And yes, it is true. As a 501c3, we don't endorse, but what we do is we inform. And I think what Brother Jack did was gave a delineation of what each person said they would do. And
Mm-hmm.
and you know what? That's what he said, which what each person said they would do. Now, it's interesting, right? Because first of all, I want to start this way. Folks, in Texas, those of you who are listening here in Texas, please remember that yesterday was the deadline to register to vote. If by chance you are not registered to vote, and likewise, if by chance you're not going to be able to register to vote because that time has expired, it doesn't take you out of the game. You can work your behind off to inform everybody that you know who's already registered to get out there and vote early if they can, or to make sure and vote on election day. Look, the reality is you can't stand by and complain whatever the results are in November after November 5th and complain and say, why is this happening if you didn't participate in the game? Again, for those of you who may have forgotten to register, who are unable to register, your penance, if you will, is to fight your way into ensuring we get maximal voting participation, even if you yourself can't do it. But this is an all engaging point where we are going to decide the fate of this country. And I don't say this in any form other than what it really is. We have two directions that we will choose. We will choose, and again, we will choose if we want to be a country dominated by a strong person, a strong man, not a strong person, a strong man, an authoritarian type style government. We can decide that. Or we can decide if we want a government that is more people centric. Again, these are choices. There is one issue that one must realize when making choices, however, and that is you can make choices that are also irreversible or difficult to reverse. If you have a metal bar that has some spring in it, you can move that spring to the left and the right, and when you let go, it always finds itself right back there, straightened in the middle, which gives it another opportunity to be bent back and forth. But there are two conditions that can occur. One, you over fatigue it in any one direction and it bends to that direction near permanently. But that fatigue may be reversible if you add fatigue to the other side, if you pull strong enough on the other side. And then you get back not the best, but similar motions in back. We have all these features we did in our materials courses in college. In metallurgy, you have that behavior as well. Now, however, if you pull to one side and that one side creates a fracture, that fracture for that one piece of material, the material being our country, is irreversible, and you set things into motion. Those are concepts that are not difficult to understand, but real. Also, my friends, remember this when you're going to vote. What people are, what not what people, what these candidates are saying they want to do. One of the issues I have today is how reporting is done. And I have one video that I want to play. And this video shows 60 minutes. It shows it talks about how one reporter responded to Kamala's 60-minute interview. I'm going to play this video and we will talk about it a little further. But also, please do remember that the telephone number to call us is 713-526-5738. Again, that is 713-526-5738. Listen to the video and I'll be right back. The mainstream media simply should drive most of us crazy. And let me explain. It is imperative for us to understand something here. Nobody has asked Donald Trump any serious questions, but they don't ask the serious questions, because they understand that Donald Trump is incapable of answering them. And of course, as what bullies would do, is he likely snap back or do what he did in the 60-minute interview several years ago, where he simply walked out. So let's be clear here. There isn't equity here in the way these two candidates are treated. Now, let's start this way. Yesterday, Kamala Harris went on to 60 Minutes to discuss, to do what every presidential candidate does on 60 Minutes every year. Donald Trump copped out. He decided he doesn't want to do it. And one of the reasons that he doesn't want to do the 60-minute interview is he doesn't want to be fact-checked. But of course, you do interviews, and all your interviews should be fact-checked. And a real news media would fact-check you to make sure, as a news program, what they're doing with their audience is presenting to their audience a something the audience can say, okay, this is what the candidate said. These are the questions that the host asked. And then we analyze whether these are true. And if you take a look at what happened with Kamala Harris and the CBS interviewer, as she's speaking, there are times that they cut in and they give a more expansive view based on actual news. That's what a news program is supposed to do. And by the way, they didn't in doing their fact checks on Kamala Harris, they didn't find anything that she said that was a lie or whatever. They may not have agreed with the way that she said she would solve certain things. But one of the things that irks me mostly is the difference in treatment that someone like Kamala Harris would get. Even within this 60-minute interview, the way she was handled by the host showed a bit of disrespect, the way he interrupted her, as opposed to how they deal with Trump, as she's given an answer. But pardon me, Vice President, what I'm asking you is, hey, it is fine to do that if that is how you deal with every single presidential candidate. My contention is, and provably so, is that they take more liberties when it's women, specifically when it's someone like Kamala Harris. I want you to, but you know, the thing is, she answered the questions. There was no question left unanswered. Whether you like the answers or not, that's debatable, but she answered the question. And that's why it was disconcerting for me to see how Andrea Mitchell, a reporter that, while I think is sort of on the conservative side, to everyone who is honest, she picked up a right-wing talking point. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. It's very short.
Vice President Harris is amping up her media blitz again today, appearing on The View this morning. She'll join Howard Stern in the next hour. Then tonight, she'll be on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The interviews follow her sit-down, of course, with 60 Minutes, where she targeted Donald Trump for backing out of doing an interview with the program. But with just 28 days to go, some voters still feel they don't know enough about the vice president. When pressed about immigration, the economy, paying for her policies, the vice president appeared to struggle with her answers. Democratic National Committee Chairman Jamie Harrison. Great to see you, Chairman Harrison. Well, less than a month ago, the Nonpartisan Committee to Protect the Budget says Donald Trump's proposals would add more than $7 trillion to the debt, but hers would add more than $3 trillion. So he's not being specific at all. Let me, posit that. Does she have to be more specific Are people demanding more from her because they don't know her as well?
Now, hear ye. She said, Andrea Mitchell did say that somehow Kamala Harris had some problems answering questions about how she would pay for the programs that she wanted. Or, there is not one question that CBS showed her answering where she had any problem whatsoever telling what her beliefs were and pointing out what she intended to do. There was absolutely no question left unanswered. Moreover, in when he asked her how is she going to pay for it, she expressed it. She said, I am going to raise taxes on those people who have pretty much gotten a free ride all this time. So, question asked, question answered. Do you want to know how much of that is going to be capital gains tax? How much of that is going to be raised income tax? How much of that will be an excise? That is done when you're putting policy together. She gave the framework, a framework that Donald Trump is unable to articulate. Now, here is the other thing that we ought to be cognizant about, because this is very important. He then threw a wrench in. Hey, what happens about the Senate? Meaning many people sort of have the belief that the Senate is going to flip. I mean, I know they're concerned about where Tester is in the race, and I think the Wisconsin race has been called a toss-up now. Of course, they don't put into the equation that Texas is is on the margins right now, as well as Alcacel in Florida, which could actually be, we could have a great night in which our Senate is +2, or we could have a lousy night where we are -2, right? I mean, you don't know. I mean, it all depends on turnout. And if we get the turnout that we are expecting, we are going to blow past all the projections that we've had thus far. But let's get real. The bottom line is she answered the questions completely. And when she was thrown a curve, she also answered it. They asked her about immigration. She pointed out a statement of fact. The fact is they got a bipartisan agreement that a conservative bipartisan agreement that Donald Trump commanded to his peons that they don't pass. But we can go a bit further. He asked her, wait a minute, but you were in office for 3 years already. Why didn't you do something in the beginning before you quadrupled the flow of undocumented workers here? And there are two answers, right? One is, number one, I am not the president. Number two, the president sent me to do a job that I did, and that job took some time before the results are noted. But more importantly, everybody talk about CBS asking the right questions. Why don't CBS, who should have the body of knowledge, point out what the real reason is for the influx of people into the country? I mean, CBS has all the reports that understand the answers. They understand what the issues that we have done overseas. They understand the technicalities that could actually mitigate these types of flows of people if we took care of what Kamala went to Guatemala to do and to these other Central American countries to do. So again, it is clear to me that many a times these confounded reporters, many a times these reporting agencies, they're simply in the bag for the plutocracy with a semblance, a facade of being objective. But the reality is we know what the answers are, and they do too. Now, if they would just report what things are, it would be fine. So as far as Andrea is concerned, Andrea was completely wrong for stating she had trouble answering a question. I wonder if it were a man, if she would have said the same. She had no trouble answering any of the questions. That the Vice President of the United States did very well. And that is an objective statement based on the video of the interview you can go watch at the CBS website. Absolutely so. Now, I mean, if you take a look at this, to just show you how subjective these folks are, Andrea Mitchell said, the policies Trump's laid out thus far, which means letting the tax cut that continue, etc., would cost the national budget It would add $7 trillion to the debt, but Kamala's will add 3 trillion to the debt. Her intonation would give the impression that Kamala's policies would be adding more to the debt than Trump's. The truth of the matter is, Kamala's policies would increase spending over that time by $3 trillion. And the question that was subsequently asked is, how will that be paid for? She then expressed how she intends to pay for it, which means that $3 trillion addition to the budget that the questioner asked her would be nil if it's paid for. You see, the thing about it is, these guys are they're so disingenuous. There we have $7 trillion from Donald Trump, because again, he's keeping the tax cuts for the wealthy in place, plus he's adding other tax cuts, etc. That would add 7 trillion. Plus he wants to add a 20% tariff without having a structure in the United States to replace that, which means it adds inflation. Those are statements of fact. Kamala, they're asking, hey, you're going to spend $3 trillion more. They said you will add 3 trillion to the budget. No, she will spend 3 trillion more. And she said she would pay for it. Donald Trump doesn't say he's going to pay for his 7 trillion. So that does go on to the debt of the country. If you listen to 60 Minutes, you would never have gotten what I've just told you. They're asking her for her extra spending to pay for it. For Donald Trump's extra spending, we don't know. Maybe so. Who knows? I mean, the dishonesty with which we have reporting. And again, this isn't right wing. This isn't from the right wing stations. This is from MSNBC. My friends would call that the liberal channel, which I think is far from the case, or the progressive channel, which I find is far from the case. So again, they're talking about Kamala Harris. People don't really know her. Really? This was the person that ran California's legal system. They don't know her? Okay, maybe not. All right, this is the person that's been vice president. They don't know her? Come on. They don't really know what she stands for. Really? After she's identified these policies? Look, there's an article that I reference in today's newsletter. Advocates applaud Harris' plan for Medicare to cover home health aides. All right? And in effect, what she's doing is realizing she's actually talking to you, the average American citizen. And in this particular new policy that she laid out, well, new to the audience on TV, it's been on her website. What she says she's going to do is, she says, look, you know what I know this is happening in this country because I go around the country and people tell me this? Well, at Politics Done Right, people tell these stories all of the times. You just look at our chats and you hear these stories. Let me back up. I remember when when they were fighting over Obamacare, and the people were really against it. I can never forget. I used to do Politics Done Right on a Canadian station. And this woman called in. She was from the United States, and she called in. And she said she hates Obamacare, and this is so wrong, and how, because she believed everything that the right wing told her. And she had a disabled son, 30-something years old. And, she would talk about the son and how hard it is for her. She can't get insurance, and, she's working on charity to take care on her kid. And I listened to her story day in and day out. Then I was doing Politics Done Right on a 4-hour show every Saturday. And she called, and I said, after she told me the story, I kept on saying something sounds bad about that, because Obamacare actually covers her. So when she called that last time, I said, ma'am, let me tell you, your son, and I asked her a few questions about her son, and then I said, look, drop me a line, but your son qualifies for the Affordable Care Act. And you live, I don't remember what state she lived in, but she lived in a particular state that it actually took care of. And I told her, I think I gave her information to call and all of that. And that woman called back the program crying the next week. Her son was insured, her son had coverage, and she was so upset at how misinformed she was. And my God, she's a complete progressive now, right? But I say this, I'm going to segue a little bit before I go back into the subject because this misinformation harms people. You hear Trump and his crew doing it with the hurricane right now, letting people think, oh, you're only getting $750 and then forget about the government. The government can't help you or they're not doing their jobs. And people are trying to repair their lives and they don't repair their lives because their right wing information machines are giving them bad information. And because they're giving them lying and bad information, they don't get the support that they're entitled to, and their lives are miserable. Some people die. Donald Trump and his crew are doing that right now with the hurricanes by ill-informing, misinforming, disinforming people about what's happening, about how to get coverage, about who to call. That's what they're doing right now. But it is a modus operandi. It's an operation of death. During the pandemic, pointing out to people that masks don't work, they do. Pointing out to people that there's something wrong with the vaccine, it's not. I mean, everything has a risk. These people with the misinformation campaign that they do, they harm people, they hurt people, they cause people to die. Here in Texas as well, the way we handle our healthcare system with telling people somehow the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act is bad or whatever, something that cost the state 10% of the total cost for the first 3 years was free. The thousands upon thousands, the millions, not thousands, the millions of Texans that are uninsured, unable to see a doctor, would have been able to see a doctor and not die. The misinformation, the disinformation, the constancy of the disinformation from the right has killed not thousands, millions of people because they believe they're fewer. They believe those agents, those right-wing machines that's telling them these things. So I'm telling you, during the pandemic, the right wing got a lot of people killed by lying to them. During now present, not accepting the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act gets a lot of Texans and other red state citizens killed because those states refuse to accept the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. They get people killed. The current candidate, Donald Trump, by ill-informing, misinforming people about the hurricane and the resources, getting people killed for not asking for help or not trusting that their government is there to serve them. The lies that they tell about Springfield, Ohio, Haitians eating your cats and dogs, creating animus in the society where people start to fear others and people start to harm others. I mean, over and over and over, these lies harming people, killing people, causing people's strife in life. And now, the potential for a second term of a presidency that does that, America, you know, the country on the top of the mountain, that country that people look up to, be careful. You may not just be losing your luster, but you may be losing your damn life. And this is not an exaggeration. I pointed out item after item after item where provably we can show that the misinformation from the right wing has killed, has maimed, has harmed. Folks, let's get real. Patrick, come on in.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Wanted to support you and point out that journalism makes a lot of money, and the pretty icons that they have delivering these messages live a very, very good lifestyle. So do the producers. Just about everybody involved are going to be pretty filthy rich, and they're going to be the ones that are being given a pass on taxes. So they're not going to be objective when they are interviewing somebody that's going to be threatening their income and their wealth or redistributing it. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, and we should talk about it, but we should understand that they're not going to be objective towards somebody that is going to favor the middle class and fund that with their tax money.
You know, Patrick, we had. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was a board member of a group called the Coffee Party USA, and we got so fed up with how reporting was done, we created a program called Be the Media. And the idea being is since we now had social media and all these different media domains, that we, the individuals, could actually be a part of the game. Unfortunately, and by the way, that worked and that continues to work. I mean, Be the Media, that's one of the things that in effect got me started doing what I'm doing as well, right? But here's the kicker, Patrick. The other side has also joined the fold. And the bad thing about it is they don't mind. They don't mind just outright lying to the people who trust them. And that's a danger. So it's about building trust. And you're right. I am not dependent on the media being honest. But I am I fact check the media. I expect to be fact checked. I'll put my record up there. Actually, there are independent fact checkers that rate my website as highly factual. But the reality is we have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of work to do, not just for this election, but continuously, because the thing that's being polluted right now is people's minds. And like bad pastors around the world know one thing: I don't need to take your money if I can take your mind. Because if I take your mind, I have you, I have all of you, your money and everything that comes with it. Continue, please, Patrick.
On a different subject, do you remember, I think it was Ted Cruz when he read Dr. Seuss?
Yes, I do. On the floor of the Senate. That was a shame, yeah.
Yeah, it was a filibuster technique, and that's something that one party wants to get rid of, another party wants to reinforce. I see it as a tool that is kept to keep legislation from being introduced, which is anti-democratic. The reason why I bring that up is more and more the conversations that you're having with Brian just sound like Ted Cruz reading Dr. Seuss, just wasting time.
Well, yeah,
Go ahead.
I mean, you're right. I mean, look, the thing about it, first of all, that is true, right? But I must give him the 2 minutes, because just like Brian has those words that that he wants to get out there, there are thousands of Brians out there that simply believe it. So I get to see with having a Brian, I get to see what's screwing the other side's minds up, and at least there is a pushback to address some of that. I mean, it's not to take up a whole bunch of time, but it gives us the option to do that, Patrick. But Patrick, let me talk to you at 3 o'clock if you show up at the show at 3. All right?
Sounds great. Have a great day.
Talk to you, my brother. All right, let's go to Peggy. Come on in, Peggy.
Ted, you hear me, Egberto? I don't have my sound on, so
Yes, I can hear you well, Peggy. Thank you for calling.
Good. And I'm calling about something you said, I don't remember if it was a day or so ago, about I had a reaction that the way I'm analyzing everything that's going on right now is through the color of the patriarchy. When I think of the patriarchy, I think of it as the way I was trained about it about 60 or 70 years ago, that it's white men in the United States that are the patriarchy. They control everything. Yes, there are black men, brown men, yellow men that all think they're a part of that, but that's more collaboration than actual power. And the white men are going to use the black Supreme Court judge until they get everything they want from him. And if they open up slavery again, he will be a slave. That's who they are. But about 70 years ago, I think it was 70 years ago, that Sonia Johnson was alive and moving on the planet and really, really active. She came out in favor of the ERA, got kicked out of the Mormon church, lost her community, her family, her children, everything. And she began writing about what it was like to be a totally conditioned patriarch wife and then come to the realization that there was nothing in her life that was her. And that's what happens in a patriarchal system. Everybody to their bones is colored by that male-dominant reality. And she came up with a theory one time that all of us that were fighting the patriarch, we needed to just stop it. We needed to not give them power, because every time we went to them and fought with them, they were inside of a fort, and they would thicken the fort walls. They would raise them up. They would make them bionic. And then suddenly, in my my numerous decades of going along this path, I realized that nobody's talking about the patriarchy. We're talking about the basic tenets of the patriarchy: racism, sexism, homophobia, real basic core beliefs of the patriarch that everybody else is bad except them. And, and then it's like suddenly nobody's fighting the patriarchy, so they don't have to thicken their walls anymore. And then all of a sudden they sort of like come out of their silo, and they realize that they've been sort of inculcated themselves amongst themselves and only listening to themselves, and they've let their fort weaken. And outside the fort, rather than us going and fighting them, we have been joining together. It's what I saw in the Black Lives Matter. Everybody was there. And now with Trump and all of the Christian nationalists, because Christianity is a great producer of the patriarchy, and all of these kind of right-wing organizations that I'm hearing talked about in various ways, with various ways of analyzing them, are the patriarchy. And they've lost their power, they've lost their control, and so now they have to come out like a lion. And they're actually coming and fighting us now because they want some of our power, because we've taken it away from them. I'm a pre-Roe woman. In my lifetime, we have gone from no abortion to abortion back to no abortion. And it's amazing to think, well, of course, they had to start with the women. They had to get their Supreme Court aligned so that the women would get back into control, so they could get the kids back into control. And what I'm watching right now is I think that it's a deterioration of the patriarchy, and that all of us that are out here thinking we're fighting something, we're really not. We're watching the end of a way of thinking that is archaic in our system today. And yet there's enough of them left that are so indoctrinated into that system that they don't have a clue that they're acting out of their indoctrination. That's what I see happening with the news stories about everybody gives Trump a pass. Well, he's like the ultimate patriarch now, and they are pretty crazy people. And Okay, go ahead. I'll shut up now.
Oh, no, 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 no. I did not. What you said is very important. I want to make a sort of a corollary to what you just said, however. Because I don't want us to fall into I don't want all of us, including you, myself, or anybody, to fall into the color trap. The what we do is we split, divide, and we use color and all these things as a division. The reason you have the black white issue, the color issue, is that is easily delineated, right? That is an
Right.
easy way that we can just look at somebody and delineate them. That said, a white man, a black man, a white woman, a man, a Chinese, Asian woman, whatever the case is, right? Uh, there's no inherent there is no inherent genetical thing that creates a behavior. And the reason I'm stating that specifically is um, our allies in the movement for freedom, collectivism, etc., cannot be based on any one of those in the collective believing that there's something inherently evil or not evil within them. I express what is evil are those who control based on those issues. And let me explain exactly what I mean. When you stated that we know the patriarchy, and I try not to say white patriarchy because I like to stand with patriarchy. You stated, well, they are using Clarence Thomas, and if they get what they want, Clarence Thomas would be a slave. I say no. I mean, even during the slavery days in America, in certain communities, there were people who looked just like me that were behaving exactly like what you call the patriarchy. It is and I think you actually said it. You talk about indoctrination. It's a state of mind. Uh, these people, they
I
use.
believe. Oh,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I want to finish, but go ahead and interrupt. It's okay. Go ahead, Peggy. Is Peggy still there? Oh, I think don't hang her. I think she's still there. I think she may be having phone problems. But what
no,
I wanted,
so-
yeah, go ahead, Peg.
okay. No, I call those collaborators. They all
I
feel that at some level they're going to get to be what the patriarch is. However, they can never be that.
Okay, and that's where I think I may differ with you. You define the patriarchy as white men, as if the color has something to do with it, as opposed to being an and what is the word that I want to use? I am trying to take the color out of the patriarchy because there's nothing inherent to color that makes the patriarchy. If I go into a white church, there's a patriarchy. If I go into a black church, whether it has an alienation with a white church or not, there's a patriarchy. There's just something that certain males have the control mechanism that they believe they have the control mechanism. I think when we apply color to it, let me tell you what, in my opinion, we do. You see all those white boys in Appalachia? You see all those white boys now that are starting to think they are a part of what Trump believes in? They're not. They'll never be, nor do they want them there. They have more in common with our black boys in the ghetto, our Latino boys in the barrios, and they have more in common. It's a Bernie Sanders. People, a lot of folks in Black Lives Matter had a problem with Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders saw some of what I'm saying here, that there is a patriarchy. Race is just a tool within that patriarchy to help assist it win, but it's not the real picture. That's again, I don't know that it's something that we can prove wrong or right, but I think it is what we're seeing as we even see black men and Latino men jump into the Trump bandwagon. But it's something we should probably subject when I have more time to discuss. So I tell you what, Peggy, please keep listening and please keep calling so we can further discuss this. But my line started to fill up, and I want to give everybody about a minute to talk. Can you finish that for me?
Okay. I'm done. I mean, this is a very long conversation that we're beginning
Right.
to have.
Thank you very much, Peggy. You really gave me some food for thought and stuff that I really want to talk about as well. Thank you, Peggy. Let's go to Don. Don, give me a minute.
Hey, hello.
You're on, Don.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Listen, I'm not going to take up much of your time. I just got a thought. I've been listening to you for about 4 or 5 months, maybe. I'm a centrist, right down the line. I'm not left. I'm not extreme left, not extreme right. That being said, I'd like to say that you got a great platform to use to talk about the situation back east, for all these people are hurting. They're Americans. They need help. And it would be nice to hear more about them and less about all this argument and hating on each other. Donald Trump, the bad orange man, and Kamala Harris, the bad whatever. That stuff needs to come to an end, because that's where your division starts. And you guys are not doing a very good job of healing that division. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Don. I appreciate that. Now, let me just tell you that I try. I honestly try. If you take a look at my chats, if you take a look at all my platforms, I try to engage with everybody. And the reason why is you're absolutely right. We have to work with people that are hurting and how to make things better for everybody else. So I don't know that we're apart in that regards, my friend. All right?
Okay. Thank you.
Take care, buddy. All right, let's go to Jacob.
¿Qué pasó? Hey,
¿Qué
man.
pasó, amigo?
Hey, too bad, man, this ain't crayons, because all that crayon talk, black, green, orange, purple, it's not a such thing. The so-called European came up with these terms. And when you describe us, you say, I'm not a black man. Let's get that together right now. When I look down on my arm, I'm not black in the inside or out. But I understand that they gave us that as an identity. They gave that to us. My ancestors spoke Hebrew. They did black. They didn't. You know what I mean. But also, what Brian was trying to say I don't think he understand when he say Spanish. I think he thinking about like down in South America. He don't understand about Spain is a European nation, and Spain also is a European nation that actually got Panama. They the one who settled Panama. It wasn't the English, and the French the one started the Panama Canal, and then in 1904, that's when the United States took over the Panama Canal, and it was built by 1914. My mother was born in 1927, so all that is like modern day history. So when and what's going on in the Florida, they brace it for a hurricane right now. So I understand what he's saying about in the East and things of that nature. And it's welcome to America for you, Kamala, and everybody. Welcome to America. This is America, bro. They thrive on prejudice, and Trump is running off prejudice because he know the hearts of this country, and that's just what it is, bro. And y'all, that's how it is. And with women, it's women of other races that's not gonna like her just because of how she look. She call herself Indian, she call herself black, she call herself whatever she want to call herself. They're gonna look at her like that just because this country is founded on that. It's just a prejudiced country. And welcome to America.
Thank you very much, my dear brother Jacob. Got to go on to the next. Thank you, my brother. Let's go to brother Derek.
Hey, Roberto, quickly. I'm looking forward for you to have that discussion with Peggy, because it's going to be very difficult from the way you're trying to approach that to break the United States from that, because she have been built upon racism, materialism, sexism, and there's one more ism that make her sick. And that's going to be interesting discussion because, as one that teaches on history a lot, that's where you're going to run into your problems is, because unfortunately, history is what I say. It helps to the person that studied. It helps to refine your belief system. And unfortunately, you got some that's so wrapped up in the United States belief system the way they do. That's the reason why you got MAGA. But that's all I call it.
Let me tell you, Derek, don't leave here because I want to answer some of that. I enjoyed what Peggy brought, right? Because you look at the progressive movement, certain parts of the progressive movement that I have to confront when I go out to my different conferences, because we have our blind spots in the progressive movements at all, and many of those blind spots are exactly what you talk about because of the historical nature of the United States proper, right? But that said, I still I'm a serial optimist. My first objective is always to break down. Believe we should break down the false barriers that our history created, right? That false barrier that looks at us with these different identities somehow being different, right? If you break those barriers, like the barrier that I try to contend with Peggy, is there is a patriarchy. There is a patriarchy that's evil and it's fighting back. The reason why Trump doesn't get a whole lot of pushback is the nature of who he is. He does represent our patriarchy on steroids, but it's not his white skin, is what I try to propon, that makes it that way. His white skin is a tool of that patriarchy used to maintain its existence. And I'm trying to create, maybe I'm not good at the narrative, but I'm trying to create the right narrative so that people can understand that. But Derek, I have two more calls and I want to finish them up. So let's talk tomorrow or the day after, right, brother?
Okay, sure will.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to Donald. Come on in, brother Donald.
Good morning, Alberto. How are you today?
I am fine, brother. Talk to me.
Okay, sometimes you got so much stress, fatigue, and deformation of the grain structure and everything else on the steel, you have to re-smelter it, reforge it into what the grain structure you want. Then you can machine it and turn it into a tool of good use. But with the human element, it will always be used for a bad purpose because some people are good and some people are just bad.
Hey, I love what you said because we learned that in metallurgy, right? But I mean, what you just said is primo. I don't know if you realize it, but that is primo, hermano. That is primo. And what I do want to do is exactly what you just said.
Okay,
anyway,
that would make a melting pot. Number two, if you could see through the eyes of a blind man, imagine how the world would be.
Oh, God. That one, I'm not going to even try to figure that one out, Donald. Let me get to Brian, all right?
Later. Yes, sir.
Take care, brother. Peace. All right, Brian, come on in.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. Did everyone know that Kamala Harris failed her first bar exam?
Did she pass the other ones? Did she pass the rest?
Yeah, but only 20% of the people that take it fail it in California.
Okay.
Only 20%.
Okay, what does that mean?
Not very smart. She's not very smart at all.
Have you ever failed the test?
Have I ever failed the test? Yeah.
Yeah,
one time.
Okay. Are you smart?
Yeah, one time. Have you ever failed the test?
I've failed many tests, not one test. I've failed many tests.
Are you smart?
I would hope so.
Now let's talk about what's going on with the hurricane.
Okay.
Why is she taking credit for something she has no credit for? She's saying that she called DeSantis. DeSantis said no, that's not her job. and they have no record of her calling DeSantis.
All
That's
right,
the president's job.
let's be clear here. No,
He
let's
plays
be
for a
clear.
fool.
No, let's be clear. Let's be clear. The president has the authority to delegate. And do you know whether the president delegated her to do some calling or not? You know that, yes or no?
No, I don't.
Okay, so
Because
then you shouldn't be. Okay, wait. So you should not be speaking about it. You don't know. That was an honest answer. You don't know. If a smart person would have said, "Oh, the vice president is calling me. Let me take that call." Okay, it's disrespectful for what DeSantis had done because he showed that he's a sexist and likely a bit more. But I'm not going to go further. Anyway, Brian, I got to close her up, so we'll talk tomorrow. All right, let's go to Paul. I want to thank Paul Fleming in the chat, as well as Chris Allen. We also have Eric Hayes in the chat. You guys are really been talking. I haven't gotten a chance to really read much of it, my brothers and sisters. So Eric Hayes, Paul Fleming, Chris Allen, and a couple others. Welcome to Politics Done Right. Let me throw it to the studio.
Very interesting conversation with Peggy this morning. We were sitting here, Jack and I were sitting here enthralled going, wow, why doesn't she call more often?
I know, right?
Peggy, call more often, okay? Jack, what you got, man?
Yeah, the same thing. Peggy, call more often. You gave us a really nice explanation of patriarchy. You know, you laid it out for us and laid it out for us good. Thank you.
Anyway, folks, let me tell you, guys, you can go for the rest of the show is at politicsandright.com/newsletter, politicsandright.com/newsletter. Love you all, my callers, my listeners. Look, we have a lot of work to do, folks. We got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of learning to do. Anyway, my name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. With Hurricane Milton